My name is Diane Dowdey, and I started doing living history in 1997, so I've been doing this for quite a long time now. I met the man who is now my husband, and he had been involved in living history for a number of years as a Civil War reenactor, and he involved his children in the Civil War reenactments. And after divorcing, it became difficult for him to take his children and also participate in the battle. And so his two children begged me to come to an event. And at first I thought grown men dressed up playing war didn't sound very appealing to me. But his children worked on me very effectively, I will say. And so I took a costume from a play I'd been in high school that fortunately I could still wear, and I ripped the zipper out of it, and I went and started meeting other reenactors that I enjoyed being around them, and it certainly, I saw the joy that it brought the children as well to be able to go and do that. So. I primarily do the American Civil War. I also do some 1870s, 1880s. I have a 18th century outfit that a friend of mine gifted me with. So I've done a couple of events from that time period. And since I portray basically a laundress or a washerwoman, and that really hasn't changed much from the invention of the washboard until electric washing machines. So so I can kind of do that for almost any time periods. I love being able to teach people little known facts. Since laundry today is so different than it was up until the invention of electricity and electrical washing machines, but the kind of laundry that was done before the invention of electricity is still done widely in the world. So I talk to people who come from other countries, and they say, oh, I was doing that before I came here. Lots of people talk to me about their grandparents, but I know a lot about the role of military laundresses. I know a lot about professional washerwomen, as well as the family laundress. So I feel like I have learned so much about the average woman's life, and I like being able to share that with people. And I sometimes tell my colleagues who ask me why I do this, I go like, well, I have all this wonderful knowledge, and most people aren't going to listen to me if I don't have period clothing on. They're just not going to stop and do that. Well, I will say that even before the recent protests about the Confederate flag and Confederate monuments, there was being a huge decline in interest in reenacting, Civil War reenacting in particular, but I think other forms of reenacting as well, because it means being hot and wearing wool in the heat, and physically exhausting activity that I do think that a lot of people don't see any point in, and as people age out of the hobby, because they're no longer physically able to do it, younger people aren't necessarily replacing them. Now, it is a family activity. As I said, I started with a 5-year-old and an 11-year-old. but as they grew up and became adults and parents and have stresses on their lives, it's been fairly easy for them to abandon participating in reenacting. I've become a lot more knowledgeable. I've become a lot more sensitive to the class distinctions, differentiations. Yes, I have a ball dress, and I do go to the ball in a ball dress, which I understand a professional washerwoman would not be doing at all. Now, military laundress at a fort. Yes, if there was a ball or a dance, it would be more generally called a dance. Of course she would attend, and she would wear her nicest dress, but it wouldn't be as nice as the officers' wives' dresses. Although there are some low-ranking officers whose wives were military laundresses at forts. One of my favorite memories comes from the very first really large reenactment I ever attended, which was the 135th Gettysburg, which actually is on record as the largest reenactment in the history of reenacting as a hobby. My stepdaughter and I were in that cavalry camp as I was doing a laundress, so I had an actual legitimate reason to be in a military camp. And we saw the troops march out behind us. There was a road there behind us. And you could tell, each brigade or each unit, the officers would come by on horseback most of the time, not always. And then there would be this group of men. And they marched mostly 4 abreast for over 2 hours. And that was impressive. It gave me a feeling of what it must have been like to have been in Pennsylvania in 1863 and watch the Confederate Army and the Union Army marching the back roads of Pennsylvania. Really amazing experience. There. Another wonderful event that happened to me that really wasn't related to, I was doing a demonstration for a school group, and a former student of mine that I'd had like 20 years ago came up and asked if I was, an English professor at Sam Houston State University, and we had a wonderful, wonderful discussion. Also watching my children and my husband's students grow up in the hobby. We had a young man who started reenacting with us when he was in 7th grade and continued until he graduated from high school with us. And he regularly won the shooting competition at Leando Plantation. He could load, reload, and get the 3 shots a minute off there. And it gave him so much confidence. And that was just a wonderful thing to see. Okay, it is not my profession. My profession is being an English professor at Sam Houston State University. It is purely an avocation. And because I mostly do Civil War events, we move around the country. The only really major battle reenactment that I've ever participated in, I've been now 4 times to Gettysburg, and that's really because it's convenient for my work schedule. It's in July. But we've done almost every reenactment in the state of Texas that's happened more than once. And but then we also go to sites. Right now, my husband and I are doing an impression as as a Civil War sutler and or a civilian peddler. So we have set up at numerous uh, living history sites during their Living History Day or when they have an event that's appropriate for us to go to. The first piece of advice would be to reach out to somebody who is a living historian, whether it's somebody that you meet at a site or at an event, and talk to them about are they part of a larger organization. It really helps if you're getting started to be part of some kind of organization, which can be either a unit of a Civil War or Indian Wars, or there's World War II, World War II, World War I, and World War II living history groups in Texas. And yes, there's a lot of military things, but if you're a woman, you can either portray, depending on the war, you can portray what a woman would have been doing in connection with the military, or just what the impact was on women during that time period as well. And then do research so that even if you're not doing a completely first-person impression, I have really enjoyed my membership in the Texas Living History Association. I attended the very first meeting of it at the Sam Houston Memorial Museum in Huntsville, Texas. I've missed a couple, but I've attended almost all of them and have met wonderful people that I look forward to seeing each year when the conference happens. I feel like I've learned interesting things that I might not have ever done my own research about. So I've really appreciated this organization and being a member of it.